works!
Welcome back, everyone, to another exciting episode here at Duckman Cycles and VW Garage. In the last couple of videos, we ended up disassembling the stock exhaust. Now, this is a tricky thing, as the nuts are usually rusted to the exhaust studs. This causes them to gall, break off, or unscrew from the head. This is a lengthy process. And for those folks that have never done it before, first start by soaking them in a lube that penetrates.
It penetrates us.
Sometimes you even have to influence them a little bit with heat from a blowtorch.
Fire! 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 Fire!
But if the exhaust nuts are in miserable shape, nothing is going to help. When you loosen, first crack it free, then tighten it back up, then loosen again. Each time you loosen, you may discover that the nut goes just a little bit further. This is a process where you're recutting the rust-damaged threads. If you're as lucky as I am here, you'll get every one of the nuts off without breaking or otherwise disturbing any of the studs. But do not force anything, or I can guarantee you'll end up with a problem, and drilling out an old stud, retapping the stud hole on an assembled engine is a real
pain in the ass.
After that, I asked our viewers which exhaust they wanted to see installed on here, and I received some pretty equal reasoning from both sides for both style of exhaust, and even the stock one for that matter. And then, of course, there were a ton of people that requested things that weren't even an option. Some of them were quite silly.
WTF to that.
But whether I should go with the dual or the single TeePee style exhaust stack, well, it's still up in the air. The TeePee is undoubtedly cool, but it's really noisy. The best answer that I heard yet, however, is that the duals looked wider, which lends itself well to the awkward width that the ATVW already has. Benefits are that it's considerably less loud than the TeePee, and it won't be directly behind my head rattling my skull.
That rattle the human skull.
The big downside, however, is that when plug number 4 decided to foul itself and I went to replace the entire set of spark plugs, well, I guess I'm still going to have to decide what I want to leave on here. But to take the exhaust off just to check a spark plug, well, that makes me want to
punch a baby.
Trying to get a look at one of them rare, elusive, Midwestern blue-pointed muffs. I hear he's got one on his channel. That ain't what I had in mind. Hey, stupid crap.
Some years ago, I acquired a roll of split loom tubing. This roll has seen better days. Hurricane Sally picked it up out of my tent sheds last season and threw it in a neighbor's yard. It was some months before I found it again, but I wanted to wrap up the wiring harness in it as well as the battery cable. It just didn't seem like a good idea to tie the wires up naked on the jagged, sharp metal frame. The makeshift wiring harness, however, is really simple. It's only 3 wires. One to power the coil and the carburetor, and one for the oil light. And the last one goes to the starter solenoid. I bundled all these wires together in a loom as well, and laid everything out in the frame approximately where I would like for it to be.
Done, done, done.
As you know from previous videos, I don't like thumb throttles. I find that they hurt after a very short period of usage, so it's time for this one to go. A regular twist throttle is what I needed, and one that includes some run and start switches would be perfect. So I found a part from a GSXR 600 that I had in my parts bin. I did a little reverse engineering on the wiring to determine what it needed to be connected to. This isn't a hard process if you know how to use a multimeter. Also, being a Suzuki part, it should mate up properly with the brake light switch of the Hayabusa master cylinder that we used earlier.
The light switch, sir.
So off came the old bar ends, then the grip, Then the thumb throttle was removed. I found the GSXR throttle had a divot on the opposite side of the bar, and it was a larger diameter. So I drilled out the bar to make it match, then I installed the GSXR throttle. Perfect fit.
Very nice.
I needed to make a new cable end for the existing cable that I made. The VW throttle cable holdfast that I modified to fit the thumb throttle just wasn't going to work in here. It was entirely too big.
That's what she said.
I considered cutting it down more, but when the thing gets this small, my big hands have trouble working with them. So I rather elected to silver solder a new ferrule onto the end of that cable. I usually pinch off the cable gently with a vice grip about 1/4 inch down, then deliberately fray the end of it. I dip the frayed end in some plumbing flux, and then gently heat it up with a torch. Do not let the cable turn blue or glow red hot. I don't even let the flame touch the cable at all. Excessive heat will fatigue the cable and it will break there. It only needs to be hot enough to get the solder to flow. And once you have a nice blob, gently grind it down to be the size that will fit your throttle. I've had very good experiences with this on throttle cables, and they've never come off on me, but not so much with brake nor clutch cables. Your experience may be different.
Your mileage may differ.
After that, it was just a matter of reassembling the throttle assembly with my brand new ground down ferrule ready to go. So in it goes, and let's see how well this thing works. Now, I didn't record any video when I had the gauge cluster apart. This has a single printed circuit board with LEDs for the indicator lights, and the wiring harness that was coming off of it didn't match any of the colors on the Honda Foreman wiring schematic. So I was forced to follow the traces on the board and just figure out how it worked. I was hoping I could power up the gauge cluster and use it, but it has some rather serious issues. Also, the LCD was broken, and the sun kind of scorched it, so there's really not much left here that's going to be any good. All I could get it to do was to get the backlight to light up, but at least I got the oil light to work, and that was really all I needed for now. In the future, I'd like to put a Beetle gauge there with a proper round Beetle headlight. But you know, one step at a time. It's really nice having a proper throttle, an oil indicator, and a start button all immediately accessible without having to hotwire the thing anymore.
much better.
So no more shorting out the starter with a screwdriver just to get the thing running. Well, that's about it for today. Please licky, likey, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see all you guys next time. Thanks so much for all your suggestions. I really appreciate you guys. If you'd like to support me, hit me up on my Patreon, or look at my website, duckshit.net, and find my shop donation link. I'll be building a shop hopefully in the next few months, and I'm still scraping together all the pennies that I can. So for those of you that support me, once again, thank you so much. We'll see you next time.